Hello, welcome to Sunshine Hunting. I'm Heather, and I'm so excited that you're choosing to join me in creating a space where our stories of struggle turn into stories of strength. So click the like button, share, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to comment below. It's a free and easy way to support the channel, and it allows me to continue to offer a safe space for our healing. Okay, so you know the state of Texas in the United States. But I bet you didn't know that the entire occurrence of PTSD in the United States is equal to the total population of Texas. That is crazy. It's blowing my mind. But if we globally persist on our current trajectory, there's no foreseeable future in which we can expect a decrease in those statistics. 70% of adults in the United States alone have faced a traumatic event at least once in their lives. I'm here to remind you that you're not alone, and it's okay to seek support. Trauma is a tricky beast, messing with your mind, feelings, and even your body. And sure, usual therapy helps, but don't underestimate the power of art and music. They're turning out to be an awesome allies bouncing back from trauma. But the first thing we need to know is what exactly is trauma, and how does it deeply affect us? Imagine going through a profoundly distressing event that leaves you feeling utterly vulnerable, betrayed, or unable to trust others. This experience can trigger a whirlwind of emotions, from intense anger or aggression to withdrawing into a cocoon of shame, seeking numbness, or desiring solitude. And why does trauma have such a profound effect on us? In the immediate aftermath, our bodies enter a heightened state of alert, marked by a surge of adrenaline, cortisol, and other stress hormones alongside overwhelming fear. And this reaction shifts our brain into a survival mode, drawing on ancient instinctual responses that have protected both animals and humans from threats and ensured their safety throughout history. So during deep trauma, a person will use one or more of the 4 F's of fear or stress. And it's important to understand that we subconsciously do this automatically with our body. It acts without us trying to engage it, right? We become frightened and our body automatically responds in one of these 4 ways. We either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn based on the situation or threat. And yes, we can use one, if not more, of these 4 F's in order to handle and deal with a fearful and stressful situation. And we also have to understand that trauma can be categorized in 3 main types. Acute, resulting from a single incident, like a car crash. Chronic, from repeated and prolonged events like abuse. And complex, from multiple varied traumatic experiences that are often interpersonal in nature. So we can come to the conclusion that dealing with trauma is tough, and just taking the first steps can feel like a lot. Remember, healing isn't a straight line, and it's different for everyone. It's super important to be kind to yourself along the way, and the effects of trauma can sneak up on you in subtle ways or hit you like a ton of bricks. It can change you so much, from who you are and how you react to things to how you grow as a person and how your background influences everything. There are always primary challenges that you encounter when you first start working through trauma. You feel disconnected from everything. I remember when I was first diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, I was dealing with fraud and identity theft, and was working through a tumultuous divorce, and And that was just at that current time. And as well as a car accident that totaled my vehicle after I had just bought it. And feeling alienated at work and working with bullies and having to change my work situation, as well as COVID that was also going on. And I was working 60 plus hours a week at my job. So there was a lot of things going on in my life, and that is also not adding in all the moments of trauma that was going on in my life prior to this, in my childhood, and the decades leading up to that period of time. And so I had went to my job and asked for a 10-day leave of absence to try to handle the fraud and all these things that were going on, and file police reports and things like that. And I went to the psychiatrist because I had to get a letter, and that was when he said to me that I was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder that was complex from the repeated events that, had unfolded in my life. And I just thought that there was a lot of stuff going on and that I just needed to have some time to rally and kind of put my life back together again. I had no idea of what I was dealing with and how much I had been trying to, work through all these complex emotions and feelings, and how much I was sabotaging myself and how much I was gaslighting myself and hurting myself from the previous traumas that I had encountered in the past. And all of this people pleasing, and which is basically, pleasing and appeasing from this past trauma, had led me to these moments of abuse later on in life, and feelings of unworthiness and attracting the same kinds of individuals and the toxic behaviors that I was implementing on myself and allowing others to do to me, by not having proper standards and boundaries, because of my self-worth being so low, thus creating this vicious cycle of abuse and pain that was leading me further and further down the rabbit hole, per se, right? And I needed to find a way to stop. And thankfully, I had asked for that for that 10-day leave of absence, and then finding out that I was having this problem because I felt very, very alone. And so, and I couldn't understand why I was feeling so unheard, and I had been asking for help, and people would just stop showing up for me. The people that should be showing up for me in my life in this way, the people that said that they were my friends, the people that were my, a spouse, a partner, the people that you're supposed to be able to trust and rely on and count on. And they had just not been there for me for a while, and I couldn't understand what was happening. And I just completely had this veil that had completely, been lifted. And I had been blaming myself and thinking that I wasn't good enough. And, I didn't understand why. I kept questioning, what was I doing wrong and why? Why wasn't I good enough for these people to value me and to accept me? And I was enraged and I was angry and I was frustrated, and it just didn't make any sense to me. And then once he diagnosed me, then I realized the monsters that I had been dealing with and the toxic behaviors that I had been entertaining in other people and subjecting myself to. And that's when I could start unraveling myself from these people in my life. Now, that becomes a lot more difficult than it sounds because these people are very skilled and manipulative, and they know your weakness, and you are very, very vulnerable at this time. And I guess you are prone to wanting to remove yourself because you're so hurt that somebody would be like this and manipulative like this to you. And you find yourself oftentimes falling back into old habits that once helped you deal with moments of pain and suffering, even those habits that potentially could be or are harmful to yourself. I found myself trapped in repetitive cycles driven by the fear of confronting the narrative I had internalized, either from my own beliefs or those imposed by others, about what awaited me beyond my current reality. This led me to settle for mere fragments of what I desired, accepting the scant breadcrumbs of affection thrown my way, provided I sufficiently pleased and appeased my narcissist enough. The other challenge that happens as you begin your healing process is you end up thinking a little bit more slowly than you have in the past. I think that partly it's because you have to question everything that happens. I became very indecisive, and I would guarantee that most people probably would also become indecisive in this situation because an entire veil has been lifted of what your life was or what you thought your life was. And it's a complete farce. They have completely sold you this fake fantasy lifestyle while they were manipulating you and manipulating other people and living this false life around you. And it's really hard for you to place trust into other people or trust anything that would cause you to have to make a decision or a judgment call because you don't even trust yourself anymore. And once you look behind that curtain and you see the nightmare that you were living, then you realize that what am I going to do now? Like, I'm surrounded by all these toxic people, and how am I going to stop attracting this energy and toxicity to me? So you start to stop hanging out with people. You start becoming like a recluse because you're frightened. But 2, you start to get really in your thoughts and really in your head, and you start to overthink everything. And then once you realize these people that had been manipulating you, because it's not typically just one, it's a lot of people, because your self-worth is so low over time. They have completely worn away any kind of self-confidence or value or self-worth that you had, even if it was a minor amount, right? And you're trying to figure out, how can you stop engaging with these people that are around you and stop attracting any more of these individuals into your life. And they seem to dig their hooks into you, is what it feels like. Because they don't want to let you go. I mean, you're their supply, right? You provide them, the one thing that nobody else has ever provided them. And they can't get it, they can't get that from anybody else. So they don't want to let it go. They will do anything and everything in order to keep you under their spell, let's just say, lack of better words, really manipulation. And use tactics. Other people, you'll often hear people that deal with this kind of toxic element, or individuals, as they use their flying monkeys, which is a reference to individuals in their life that they, put out there to manipulate and do their dirty work for them, so then they can say that they didn't do anything. They had no part of it. And I remember in the middle of a lot of crisis during my, PTSD, and I was not medicated, and I was trying to get into the psychiatrist here in Montana, and they were very full, so I was waiting. I had people like all over online saying that, they could help me get rid of all the demons and dark spirits that were in my mind, and, just BS, for lack of a better word, right? And, I never once questioned that there was something horribly wrong with my spirituality, and there was never a time where I felt like that, I had evil spirits that had taken over, or that, a spell had been cast over me. No, I felt like I was being attacked by someone that knew me, and it was an attack on multiple people at different levels, like, from different angles, on, financial, online, at my job, socially, like, I was assaulted. I mean, we're talking like I felt like I was being attacked at every single level. So I would want to, I was either being run out of town, or that I'd want to, kill myself, or, what have you. Right? They were trying to literally destroy me and my existence. That's what I felt like. And I had really done nothing wrong except for that. I just wanted to be alone. I just wanted to have the freedom to be alone. Like, I kept having my intuition tell me that I was unhappy and I was feeling stagnant in the current condition, and there was no movement, and I wanted to leave. I needed to get, like, I felt I was drowning, in the life I was living. And I had done everything possible that I could do to make things better. And it was just an endless cycle of decay, no movement. It's like I couldn't breathe. All the air was zapped out of the room that I was living in, and every cell in my body was telling me to get out. I don't know another way to describe it, but I had to go. I had to get out of it. And I don't want to digress too much in my own personal thing, but it was this feeling that I just couldn't understand why this person was so unwilling to be a partner, to be a spouse, to work together as a team, the way people and couples do when they get married. I just couldn't understand it. And then it clicked finally, obviously, when I had my diagnosis. But it was alarming, to say the least, that I had been manipulated, because I just never thought in all my years of living that somebody could be as cruel and as horrible and have no feeling and just pretend that they just pretend that they feel sorrowful. They just pretend, they put on, because they know what other people are supposed to feel like, right? And so they just put on the act of how socially people feel in those circumstances. So it was very alarming. And you saw the other side of somebody that you were living with that you never thought would come out, And then the other big another challenge is the fact that you start to isolate yourself, and not because obviously you don't trust yourself or trust others. And I had spoke about this earlier a little bit. And it not only messes with, you meeting people, but it can also mess with your therapy, because why would you trust your therapist, right? Because, you know what I mean? Why would you trust what they're telling you to do? The entire thing just makes it very difficult to build relationships with others. It takes longer. You have to be willing to, because you're so afraid of getting hurt again, You're so afraid of being manipulated. You're so afraid that, well, is this person also a flying monkey? You just start feeling like you're insane, even though you're not, right? And it just takes, the whole process just takes like time for you to try to have clarity over everything, And even like the smallest like white lie that someone might say, and you find out about, is so detrimental, to the entire, path of your possible relationship. And you know how people, human beings lie, right? To a lot of times just to not hurt another person, right? But you have to become, and I'm not saying that that's right in any way. Like, I really try not to lie. I really don't lie, to be honest with you, because I know how detrimental that would be for me. But I know that sometimes people will lie, they're not around, they're at a business meeting, right? And they're not really, but they just don't feel up to talking to anybody. Let's just say that's their thing. Well, if I found out about that when I was in a crisis, I would be extremely hurt, and I wouldn't trust that person ever again. I would think that they were manipulative, so if that's like a good example that what is this person doing? This person's toxic, but they might just be not in the mood to talk to somebody. So you have to, it's like a real fine line, with boundaries and your previous pain and experiences from people that hurt you and took advantage of you and did all these horrific, played all these horrific games with you. And that makes it very challenging as well. So, of course, what do you do? Once this happens at once or possibly twice, or you get fearful and you start to isolate yourself, of course. And that's when you become a recluse and you're alone. And you start having that longing and that pain and that, that real being alone and suffering begins. But I have to say that as difficult and as painful as that was, it allowed me to not, to work through that codependency that I had, and to work through not being afraid to be alone, to face that fear. And that was really actually something that was so brilliant. I'm sure that wasn't their objective, but that's what happened. And it was hard. That part of it was hard. And along with you distancing yourself from other people, you also prioritize stuff that completely different and choose to focus on things that are completely different than what you would have or a normal person would do. You avoid things, because you want to focus on the things that are going to stop the pain, the things that are going to stop you being afraid, and you're trying to regulate the panic and the fear and the, your body's trying to do that. So you're trying to focus on the things that are going to maybe possibly allow the quickest and easiest way to get yourself calmed down or to feel safe, right? Because you have been struggling so hard now to handle the stress that have been overwhelming you for such a long period of time. And you probably are overreacting with, emotional outbursts, and you start to shut down completely, and people think you're, volatile, possibly. They think you have temper issues. They don't understand why you respond the way you are, and the entire time it's because you're experiencing all this manipulation and mind games, and it's this ongoing cycle that has been happening for so long, and you've been struggling with it. You didn't know what was going on. You thought that it was something that you were doing, right? That's why you're pleasing and appeasing everybody. And you are just trying to keep your head above water. So let's talk about how we can start to tackle some of these challenges, right? Because trauma is always going to throw us and our inner system, like our body, inner systems, into chaos. I mean, that's what our bodies are meant to do, right? Leaving us stuck in fear or on high alert. And any kind of mindful exercise or movement can obviously really help us calm down and calm our nerves down. Movement isn't always just about our body. I mean, it can also be a mind workout too. Another way to tackle these challenges is to remember that caring both for your mental and physical health benefits not only yourself, but also those you love and care about. However, this advice comes with a word of caution, as sometimes our commitment to others can inadvertently lead us into toxic situations, especially early on in our healing process, because that's kind of what led us here already, right? This often stems from a failure to recognize and maintain healthy, safe boundaries. And it's crucial to be aware when our self-worth is being compromised or devalued, a vulnerability that may arise from conditioning linked to past trauma. That's why cognitive behavioral therapy is so highly recommended in these cases, to find out the reason why you ended up getting into this situation, and recognizing healthy boundaries as well as the normal behaviors that every person has and emotions that go along with everyday living. The third one is really leaning into your support network and really make an effort to stay connected with the people you care about that are healthy for you. That is the key, that are healthy and safe. And really look out to keep an eye on triggers that might pop up so you can chat about them in your therapy session. Now, navigating through a storm of smear campaigns and toxic behaviors from those who traumatized me left me feeling incredibly isolated in a whirlwind of disconnect. My sanctuary was found in the comforting presence of my family and my pets, the only ones around whom I felt truly safe. It's crucial to understand that no one becomes a survivor of unsupported trauma overnight. It's a harrowing journey of feeling unheard, forgotten, and having one's experiences marginalized. It's about reaching out for help and finding no one there, not just for a day or a week, but for an agonizing long period. This profound sense of isolation and neglect is precisely why I was driven to start my virtual support group program. Weekly lives are meant to help us connect and transform our trauma into power. Another way to tackle these challenges is discover methods for self-regulation. It's vital to learn tools to soothe yourself and to manage your emotions, especially when you're alone. Mastering these skills can significantly reduce the anxiety and agitation linked to your trauma, ultimately granting you a more profound sense of control over your feelings. And lastly, make sure you're putting your well-being first. It's easy to end up putting everything and everyone else before yourself. If you find yourself leaning on not so great coping methods, it's time to hit pause. Give yourself permission to rest and catch some Z's. Cut back on alcohol and drugs and maybe try choosing some healthier foods. Having your mind and body in good shape makes dealing with tough stuff way easier. And one of the best resources that I found was diving deep into the things that I was made fun of or not allowed or felt embarrassed to do in front of the people that manipulated me and caused trauma and made fun of me in my life. When I started my healing, I did all those things, and I still do, partly because they said I wasn't good at it. But I found so much enjoyment in doing those things. They tried to take the things that brought me joy and happiness and ruin my creativity because they made me question if I was good at them, or if I was successful at them, or if I had the body type that would support the things that I enjoyed. And, sometimes the world has no idea what they want to see or experience or support unless a person is given the chance to explore their creativity. And you cannot allow other people to come in and stomp out that light of joy and purpose and drive when you feel so compelled. And that was what they were doing. I was, as far back as I can remember, I was told these negative thoughts by people that were supposed to be teaching me or instructing me and supporting me because they were paid to do that. They were my teachers. I can only remember one teacher or coach that actually really truly did not allow any of that to change her, teaching method. And actually, I'm going to say two people. And, out of hundreds of people that I trained with and experienced, along with obviously the people that I thought were friends and things like that. So you build up a resilience, and it is really important I don't want to digress too far into this, but it's really important to allow, even if you're not a creative person, but to allow creativity to help you process traumatic experiences. Art therapy has become a unique strand of psychotherapy. It taps into the power of creativity for expression and communication. It's not just about making art. It's a transformative journey, specifically trauma art therapy. It offers a lifeline, a way for individuals to navigate and process trauma experiences through the language of art. So imagine translating emotions too complex for words into a visual form, giving a voice to the unspoken. This is the magic of art therapy. I am just going to add one little tidbit here, just separate from what I'm talking about. If you can hear like a faint purring in the background, it's my cat. He's sitting next to me, and he's purring. His name's Nigel, and so he's purring, and I just can't help it. Like, he just wants to be a part of this so bad. So I am going to, he's making biscuits and just purring up a storm. So I'm just going to let him. So back to the art therapy and activities. And examples of those, drawing is a great example. Creating sketches, it doesn't matter if you're a good drawer or a bad drawer, but it depicts scenes associated with the traumatic experiences that clearly people can maybe not talk about. Painting and art employing hues to convey feelings doesn't have to be realistic, and sculpture, crafting three-dimensional embodiments of emotions. And if you think about that, that's just, to me, it just sounds like, what a beautiful way to let out anger and frustration and pain, and not having to do it for anybody, but for just doing it for yourself to heal, The paramount objective is to facilitate trauma healing via art, right? So art therapy offers a secure environment for individuals to delve into their emotions, fostering self-awareness and facilitating recovery. And there's also a form of music therapy in this area. It wields a magical power over the human psyche. I mean, we've all been there where we've heard a song and it just brings us back to moments of our past that maybe were joyful or maybe were incredibly painful because it makes us remember a certain time in our life that we cherished or were, and we wish we could have back, or people that we long for and they're no longer with us. Whatever the emotion is behind the music, we've all felt that in our lives. And music has a way of weaving its way into the depths of our emotions and offering a bridge of healing. Imagine music therapy and trauma recovery walking hand in hand, music becoming a safe haven for expressing emotions and fostering healing. Dive into a world of music therapy where listening to melodies, playing instruments, or creating your own songs can unlock therapeutic wonders. And the dance between music and trauma is an intricate yet filled with hope. And music has this unique ability to light up the brain's reward pathways, sparkling joy and easing the weight of trauma and stress. When we integrate both art and music therapy, it unveils a comprehensive path to healing and embracing the soul's journey towards recovery. Right now, I want to tell you about this woman named Alice. She was in her 40s, and she had endured decades of trauma stemming from years of emotional abuse by her coaches and teachers. She was a ballet dancer, and she loved dancing. This relentless gaslighting and narcissistic treatment convincing her that she would never be slender enough to thrive in the dance world, a world that lit up her essence and made her heart soar. It led her to view her physical appearance with disdain and hatred. Still, every melody inspired her to dance and sing. But the relentless exposure to teachers who associated the art form that she loved with so much passion turned into so much pain and hatred and disgust and ultimately failure. It ultimately culminated in her unjust removal from the university's dance program. This decision unfairly based not on her talent but on her body size, that, by the way, was a size 6, was a clear violation of university regulations. And as she was alienated from the art that she adored, Alice's journey took a turn when she discovered movement therapy, designed for trauma recovery. I mean, of course, this happened decades later, but this path not only helped her begin to love her body again, but also to release the deep-seated anger and pain that she had carried with her for so long. It offered her a way to confront the cruel remarks that had haunted her daily and to forgive herself for letting those words of unqualified teachers impact her life so profoundly for so long. I encourage each of you to remember your time is too valuable to let past traumas shape your future. So if you liked what I had to say today, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share. And I thank you so much for joining me in this discussion. And let's truly be there for each other. Sending you so much love